Rutledge.
Present.
Councilman Bishop.
Present.
Councilwoman Scott.
Present.
Councilwoman Howard.
Here.
Councilwoman Richardson.
Should excuse that.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay. New business. We have discussion, action, legal services interview. We have a motion to open up the interview.
So moved.
Second.
Probably moved to second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay. Do I have any objection to us just going in the order that is listed on the agenda? No objection. Okay. I'll
Go get that question.
get moved.
Sit down.
We jam motion. Bolts come on. And do this 30. The way it come up or out. Get back. Whoa. Shit. Right. We're about to just do shit. How can I miss the first game? I got health issues. Oh, health, man. Unfortunate.
Hello.
Good evening. Good evening. Speak. Attorney Jimson, how are you?
Great. How are you, sir?
I'm good. We are today is set time to interview 3 firms for the legal services RFP. We have 10 pre-prepared questions. The council could ask you any of those questions, some of those questions, all of those questions. And also, they may come up with their own questions based on your responses, but they may have their own questions in general. So just answer it to your best of your ability. And if something you don't know, just let us know. And you can always follow up with us later if there's information that is actually necessary. Why don't we give you 60 seconds to tell us a little bit about yourself, your firm, how long you've been practicing law, and just for full disclosure, Regina and I went to undergrad together. And we also shared our office for about 5 years at the Cadillac Tower. We weren't the same firm, but we all shared space. She had her own firm. I worked for a different firm. But give us a little spiel about yourself.
I've been graduated in 1993, so been practicing since then, and was licensed in 1994. I think the thing that's important about my career is I know how to think out of the box, and I know how to serve people at the same time. I've served individuals, families, corporations, small businesses. The published opinion that I included is evidence of thinking outside of the box and creating law where there was none. I think any lawyer can have an expansive career and never get published. And so having a published opinion, I think, is a great accomplishment and just a public testament to the work that I bring to the table. I'm a hard worker. I'm a grandchild of a coal miner and a hard worker, a general laborer and secretary, a child of a general laborer and secretary. So I work hard, I serve hard, I have ethical lines that are very clear and uncompromising for me, and so ready to serve.
All right, well, thank you. Well, Lizzie, we're going to let you start off with the first question.
Oh, thank you. Do you have, I guess, like a 2-part question. So how much experience do you have in serving a municipality? And also, can you tell us how the city of Inkster is similar or dissimilar to your typical municipal client?
I think, so my experience in serving a municipality is not that extensive personally. My experience certainly mostly comes from either advising government officials, doing some civil litigation representation, also comes from helping others to draft ordinances and things of that sort. And so, I mean, total transparency, my experience is not that extensive. How this city, I think, is dissimilar is that although it covers a small geographical area, that the amount of citizens that it still serves is still, reasonable or substantial when you're talking about between 20 and 30,000 citizens, as the population fluctuates. And so I think that that is different. I think we're living in a different era where you're dealing with not just your typical land use or employment or contractual or ordinance violation issues. You're also dealing with, the marijuana issues, and you're also dealing with different uses of land that we didn't have to face in earlier iterations. And so I think in that regard, those things are different. That you are a city that has recently revised your charter could still have its implications. I don't know. But I know for the type of overhaul that you all did in the charter that could have its implications in operations and on how the law is watched and dispatched in the city.
Thank you.
Yes. Anybody can jump in.
Okay. Follow-up question. You spoke on marijuana. Do you have any experience litigating marijuana cases?
I have experience advising. I do not have experience actually doing the litigation myself.
Oh.
My one of the attorneys does on my team.
So I have a question. What is your philosophy regarding taking a case to trial versus settlement?
Settlement always works but I'm not afraid to try a case. I think what's different about me is I will go the extra effort, call for the extra meeting, swallow pride and extra time in making the phone call to really bring parties to the table to negotiate. However, I think unlike many people, I'm not afraid to go to trial. So a jury doesn't scare me. Preparing witnesses and the practice of what it is to litigate something, really dealing with the law and the facts, not just how you want to see it, but dealing with both perspectives, that doesn't intimidate me. But I think often resolution is always the best case because it costs less. And the nature of negotiating resolution is that both parties will be slightly dissatisfied, but ultimately that is the goal. But not a problem trying a case.
So, good evening. My name is Steve Chisholm. We have a full roster of legal cases. Could you tell us about how you will transition to those cases, and also while helping us mitigate any future legal cases, being proactive?
A couple of things come to mind. One of the things that came to mind as I was actually driving here today is I wondered, did the city have a budget for transition? And what I mean by that is it's going to take time and hours for us to get up to speed on the 16 cases that are pending. And so is there a budget for actual just transition? Because we've got to read all the pleadings. We've got to meet with some witnesses. We've got to meet, and deal with the touch points that are here at the city that we've got to build relationships with. And so the one question that comes to mind is dealing with the budgetary concerns of how that transition is made, both cost effectively for the city and for us to be prepared and mindful of, jumping in and hitting the ground running, because there are 16 cases that are in the midst of litigation, not at various points. And so there's that. Also, I think in anticipation or in preparation or mitigation, as you said, is to really carefully review the charter and have a conversation with key department heads and key touch points of the city to see where are our pain points, where are our points of exposure, where are our points that we need to shore up, that aren't quite up to par, that could be better, particularly, again, because the way we operate and the issues we face in some regards are different in current era. Some are the same run-of-the-mill stuff, but many are different.
Thank you.
Good.
Who from your firm will be attending the city council meetings?
I would primarily. I would be the primary key person.
Okay, we had a chance to look through your proposal. I think one of the requests on RFP was for billing on a flat fee basis, I think on a monthly basis, if I'm not mistaken. Do you remember what was your, because I see your hourly fee, I'm looking at it right now, at $225 per hour for litigation.
Yes.
But what was your monthly flat fee for that civil litigation?
So for the civil litigation, in what part? Because my understanding was that not that the contract would be a flat fee, but that it would be billed as hourly. I said $285 annually. $385 annually, $385,000 annually for the lot of legal services.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that would be the cap.
Okay.
Sure. What areas of litigation do you feel your client is not qualified to handle?
Not qualified. I think appeals is a key issue because while the published opinion that I shared, while I tried that case and took it to the Court of Appeals, I think appeal litigation is a different ballgame. And while the legal issues, you will have faced them in the trial of the matter, appeal practice is just a different view of the case because it's a different standard and it's a different way to approach litigation. And so even in that case where we were successful, I brought in a co-counsel firm from California because for me, it's always important. And what I've done for 31 years is I am fabulous, and I mean that with all honesty and not with arrogance, but I'm fabulous at building relationships and consulting with other lawyers where I'm weak. So I never have a problem saying I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you. Goodbye.
How many attorneys do you have in your firm who were part of the proposal? Did you cite?
There were three, including myself, there are three attorneys that are part of the proposal. And I'm sorry, Councilman Howard, the other thing I would add to that is workman's comp. That while I would say we're knowledgeable, I think that's one of our weaker areas.
I have a follow-up question, Mayor. Mm-hmm. In regards to if one of the council persons reaches out to you via email or gives you a call, mayor and council or anybody from the body reaches out to you or gives you a call, what is your policy for responding?
Within 24 hours.
Within 24 hours. And what is your and I know this is difficult sometimes because it's 7 of us. It's not just one direct supervisor, if you will, that you do respond to. What's your policy in that?
I think still you take the call because you're the client. So it's not, while I hope there would be, collaboration that I'm not having the same conversations repeatedly, but sometimes that's necessary. That's necessary when you're serving a family or when you're serving a business. How this person thinks or the questions this person has or even how they hear the answers can be different. And so you serve the client. You take the time and answer the questions and have the conversation. I am mindful of, sleep hours and vacation hours, but I'm also mindful, having done this and have my own practice, I put in parameters and coverage and touch points of communication when I'm personally not available.
Right.
But the expectation would be that we're, like any other client, we're responsive. We work for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one thing.
Sure.
It's not on here. I had it written it down on my notes over here. How many bench trials or jury trials have you tried?
I don't have a number.
You don't have it.
I mean, I would imagine that I've probably done at least about 25 jury trials through the years because they're not as common. I would say bench trials. I probably. It just depends, but bench trials, I can easily do anywhere from 5 to 10 of those a year.
Okay.
I have a question. If you're selected to represent the city, how soon would you be able to take over for our current city attorney?
I mean, we're prepared to start day one if you said so. I mean, because again, for me, what's important is that the preference would be to start before they leave or to have a gap time that there's at least 2 weeks, if not 4 weeks, where we're both the attorneys of record so that there is effective transition and that we're up to speed. Because while I can read the pleadings, there's the personalities and there's the backstory and there's the other things that go into resolving a case that aren't on paper. And so, yeah, I would hope there would be an overlap, but we can hit the ground running. We're prepared for that.
Anybody have any other questions? Anything else you would like to tell? So look at this stuff.
But I was like, I had to give that thought. I think I've already expressed my concern about the appeals exception. I expressed it in writing in the proposal. I think I'd want some flexibility as long as they're being managed by us. If we see the need for an expert or another attorney to come in, that I'd want the flexibility to have the best way to serve your needs. And while I think that we may lack in some areas what we lack for in experience, I think we easily make up for in grit and really tenacity and the willingness to be uncompromising in the work that we deliver.
Okay. All right. That's great. I appreciate you taking your time out to come interview with us. We'll be making the decision soon. Okay. So we will certainly let you know.
And I appreciate the consideration and just having a voice with you and being able to have a conversation to be in the game long enough to get to this point. So thank you for your consideration and have a peaceful evening.
All right, you too. Take care. Yeah, me. Oh, yeah, 20 minutes. Go for this.
What?
Two.
You know what I'm Back with me.
How y'all doing tonight? Good. Well, Savannah, how are you? Good, sir. How are you? I'm good. Can we for the job?
So it's I guess. She's not. You study here on
Punch.
sound of the Peter Decon.
It's costly. So,
Oh,
yeah, it is. I mean, this is my man for it's just pinch.
and then
Part on the phone. Oh, so no Terry Dance. Oh, this is
Polish that
maybe you part of that.
kid
I'll be old then.
seemed like city bun at the folks.
Sure. Hey, how you doing?
I'm not Terry Johnson.
I know.
We ready? Let's talk.
Yeah, I met you before. How you doing?
Thanks, Randy.
Good evening.
How do you do?
That's the Jaguar signal. That's it. That's done it.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Mike Hines, Fred Beach, Furnish.
Excellent. Yeah.
Usually you want Terry United.
Right at the podium. Just so we can speak in the mic. We're recording. So we're recording.
We got some orange chicken. Is this?
Here oh, just in time. How you doing?
Good evening. How's everybody?
Good. Good. First of all, I want to thank you guys for coming to speak with us today. This is the day set for our interview. You are our second interview now. We have 10 questions that have been prepared that council members may ask you. They may ask you some, all of them. And they may also ask questions they come up with now based on some of your responses. So we just ask you to do as best you can as far as your responses and let us know if there's something you don't know, you can just let us know and we can also always get that information later.
Yes.
Okay. Who wants to start this off?
He studied last time, so somebody else did.
Okay. I have a question.
Okay. Tell me about your firm's client relations philosophy.
Sure. Do you want to answer that? Do you want me to answer? How would you like to?
Well, maybe we should explain how we're working.
Yes.
Terry and I, Terry's firm and my firm have collaborated together to present the proposal. Terry is becoming of counsel to my firm. He's going to be part of us. In terms of the relationship with the city of Inkster, he's going to be the front man. Don't mean any negative connotations to that. But our firms are going to collaborate together. From my standpoint, as you know from the material we submitted, we have been doing municipal work for 43 years now. And as such, we value that relationship. Over those many years, we've learned to think kind of like you folks think, and we know what your expectations are. And so the top priority we have is being responsive. Our goal is to make the information that you need from us flow as quickly as possible back to you. Therefore, as elected officials, we know you need to respond to your constituents or problems here in the municipality. So our goal is to be extraordinarily accessible. And if you check our references, talk to our mayors, et cetera, I think you'll find that we've impressed them throughout the decades of serving. It's not uncommon for a text message to come from a mayor at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and right after church, I give a response. So we really strive to emphasize service to our clients. We recognize that we're not in a situation where it's a professional relationship and it's driven by clients. We have to make sure our clients think of us as superior, and I think we achieve that. So, Terry, any?
Yeah, and I just want to echo that along with the fact of basically doing, Mr. Chisholm, you asked the question, I would say doing what's right all the way through. You can't, it's kind of like a marriage, like a relationship. I have to do what's right, and you have to have trust in me that I'm going to do what's right. And there may be times where I have to say, yes, we can do this, or no, we can't. But it has to be an honest response and in our case, a legal response. And we have to explain to you why. You may say, hey, we want to lock all the doors at 6:05 if nobody comes. And we may say, hey, we can't do that, but let me tell you why. And sometimes it's not necessarily the why, but it is, what are you trying to accomplish? And when we figure out and get on the same page, we can get some of those things accomplished. So it's not necessarily in the answer, but it's more so in the solution. Does that answer your question?
If I could add to that, you reminded me that a long time ago, a councilman told me that my role as attorney is not to say no, because that's easy, but to find solutions to the problem. And that goes to the heart of what you're saying is, let's talk about what the goal is, and let's find the legal tools to make it happen within the bounds of law.
I'm sorry, when we started this, I should have gave you guys a minute or two to talk about yourself, your firm, your background. We kind of jumped right into the questions. So I know you guys are collaborating. So Terry, why don't you tell us about your experience? Obviously, you're from our community, and then Mr. Pentek can do the same.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm from here, born and raised. I was I believe, ran for council in District 5, Ms. Howard, years ago, was unsuccessful. But I am still active in the community. My wife is from here. We live outside of Inkster now. I have been very active with your police department and still am very active with your police department. I get calls quite a bit from officers at times who have actually had some folks pulled over and said, hey, can I do this, or is this legal? And I've been a instructor for your Reserve Academy for years. And there are lots of things I do. And one thing you haven't seen out of me is a bill, and I do that to give back. I'm not trying to, make a ton of money or anything along those lines. I mean, Inkster is very, very special to me. After I graduated, I went on to Michigan State. I know Mr. Mayor doesn't like those words, but it's okay, you know. But I'm a Michigan State alum, and I went to Cooley Law School and started my own practice. I've represented many people here in Inkster back when Judge James was here all the way through right now, Judge Johnson, know the court staff and other folks. And, you know, being from here, I know how this city works. You know, when somebody says, hey, you know, when they say cross the road, I know what that means, right? And there are little things that make us here in Inkster very unique. So I've done literally everything from homicide cases, which I just did last week, all the way down to jaywalking. I have currently some issues with the city of Flint that I'm dealing with those folks on. So I've kind of run the gamut in terms of my background. A little more than a minute, but I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I've been practicing for 43 years. I went to Wayne State for my undergrad and Detroit College of Law. I do not call myself an MSU alumni, even though my school merged in with them. When I got out of law school, I went to the Court of Appeals and worked there. And when you're there as a research attorney, you kind of, after a while, you get to pick and choose your cases. And I gravitated towards local government because you can tell I'm older, and I grew up during the JFK era, you know, his famous spiel about ask not what the country can do for you, but ask what you can do. And so this is, as Terry says, this is a way of giving back. Professionally, there was a lot of opportunities because of how well I did academically, but I gravitated towards this area of practice because working in communities and giving back and helping your residents progress is something that's near and dear to my heart. And that's why outside of my profession, I've been involved with the rescue mission for 4 decades. And, you know, that's another way of giving back. So very much in tune with wanting to serve the community. And that's where I come from. And I built my firm. It's Pentuck, Kavir, and Kobolak. Don't worry about pronouncing it. We call ourselves PCK because nobody can say our names. But anyway, it's built around the model of service. It's built around the model of, you know, working with communities. We're very much involved with a lot of city governments and intergovernmental agencies, all of which are designed to help move our communities forward. So.
Okay. So that brings me to the question of what is your philosophy regarding taking a case to trial versus seeking a settlement? And I say that and I ask that question because here in the city of Inkster, as other municipalities, you know, when we do settle cases, sometimes it goes on the tax roll for our residents to pay. So I'm just curious, you know, what is your philosophy regarding that?
Well, I think the answer should be let's do what's right. And sometimes you have to send a message. And what I mean by that is sometimes you have to put a foot in the ground and say, we're going to fight this tooth and nail, because if you start opening the door and letting some people sue on something that's so minuscule, when you say, hey, I'm just going to pay this and make it go away, people start to say, well, hey, I can get $10,000 here, I can get $15,000 there. Sometimes you have to have the philosophy of we're going to fight this. And once you do that and you get that reputation, you'll start to see a lot of those lawsuits and things start to fall off. Again, it goes back to doing what's right from the beginning. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Can I add to that? I don't want to prolong the interview, but let me amplify, because as you're speaking, it occurred to me, I've been serving for a number of years as risk management attorney for another municipality, and we face that problem all the time where, you know, we'll hire an insurance defense attorney. They want to get rid of the case, but there's a policy thing involved here. And you know, I've been around long enough to remember the days when Wayne County would settle everything. No cases went to trial. Everybody, all the plaintiffs' attorneys knew that. So slap cases got filed because they knew full well they'll get something out of it. In a different context, we do a lot of tax appeal defense work for our city clients. And unlike everybody else that does this for municipalities, and I probably shouldn't say everybody, but I don't know of anybody else that treats it as a lawsuit. What we do is when an appeal comes in, we initiate discovery. And I can tell you, there's a major law firm in Detroit that no longer does business in those communities because they don't want to do the work. What they're used to is file the appeal, negotiate a settlement, and they get their cut right off the top, and they move on. That's how they operate. I insist that my people fight those things. Yeah, we eventually settle. We'll meet at an appropriate level, but we're not going to roll over and just play the game and write a check. So I feel like you said, do the right thing. Don't roll over. Don't send a message that your community is an easy touch, because the wolves will be at the door all the time after that.
So thank you.
So you mentioned a lot of municipality experience. Can you tell us how the city of Inkster is similar or dissimilar to your typical municipality?
Well, you will have the same general problems. Terry's already alluded to, we're all governed by various state laws, various federal laws, and those are going to be common throughout. But each community has its own culture, its own way of thinking and addressing issues. And, we represented one in Oakland County that had a different culture and different way of doing things. And we, as the attorneys, are not here to change your culture. We're here to complement it and make sure that everything is, done according to law, but to achieve your goals and your desires. So as a governing body, we look to you for direction, and our job is to carry it out in a legal way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I forgot to disclose to Mr. Pentuck, we don't know each other personally, but I've had cases with your firm in the past, many, many years ago. There's no conflict of interest, I think, in this situation. Terry Johnson, we have mutual friends. I think he might have watched me smoke a cigar one time and chit-chatted for a few hours. Right. Our conversation is usually short because he's always talking about Spartans. So I have to cut it down just so everybody know.
So mentioned, Mr. Johnson, that you do kind of help out the city, or a lot of people and businesses within the city. Do you have any clients who you currently represent that may be a conflict of interest?
No, I do not have any clients currently out of the 22nd district or any civil matters whatsoever.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you guys talk about, in the proposal we asked for, I think, hourly fee and a flat fee, monthly agreement?
Yes.
Obviously, we're trying to contain our cost, our legal costs.
Sure.
And I'm glad you spoke to risk management, because we haven't really been doing risk management in Inkster over a decade, I think. We used to have a risk management person in-house, but I think that when we when the receivership back in 2012 or 13, his job was eliminated. And so we've been talking about that with insurance companies trying to do risk management. It's hard to do when you're not here, at least on an everyday or on a normal basis.
Sure.
But that's something we would like to get back to try to cut down on the number of lawsuits. And then also, when we're looking at a lawsuit, you guys have enough experience. You look at it, analyze it, and tell us where we're at before we start it. I think a lot of times in the legal field, attorneys will work a case all the way up so they can make as much money as they can, and then they will tell you to go settle the case, where they might have been able to analyze that earlier.
Right.
And save the city,
We're kindly talking about insurance defense attorneys. We have to make their nut before they talk about settling. But
all right. Well, let me say this. One of the interesting things about our proposal is there's a flat fee, and that flat fee covers so much. And I want to go back to something that Mr. Chisholm asked. And what that is the philosophy of doing things right the first time around. One of the things in our proposal is we're going to sit down with each department and bring their policies and procedures up to speed. And why is that important? That is important simply because there's a law and the laws change, but our policies and procedures don't, and we don't give people the training. So when they do things like FOIA violations, and I'm not pointing out anybody by any stretch or another conflict where they should be doing something a certain way, part of our proposal is getting those things in line. And we believe doing those types of things will cut down on some of the lawsuits that Mr. Nolan is talking about. So that's one thing. The other part of that is training as well, and not just for the council itself. Again, I was an elected official, and again, hats off to all of y'all, because I will never do that again. I know exactly what you're going through. But I was an elected official, and I learned a lot about FOIA and the Open Meetings Act. And a lot of people actually violate a lot of that. So I want to make sure not only training for the council, but if you so desire, we can do that for the citizens as well. This is not just, something this is a community thing. And the better educated our citizens are, I think the better educated, we can make better educated decisions on things. So from the flat fee perspective, that also includes some training and other things. Again, I know what it's like to get a phone call and say, I can only talk to Terry for 3 minutes because if I don't get off the phone real quick, I'm going to get this bill. We want you to be able to have a good conversation. Again, I know the first year you're probably going to wear me out left and right. I get that. But I'm hoping after that we will have built up, a foundation where we know where everybody's going, and some of those conversations and things will be cut down. So want to back on the other side about the risk management portion.
Well, it's the whole point of risk management is twofold. One is stop lawsuits in their tracks by, as you say, educating the people that are likely to be out there getting sued, police, people, employees, all kinds of people, positions, and elected officials as well. I've got a situation in Pontiac right now where there is some real exposure going on there. So that's the first thing is education. And then once the lawsuit does come in, the mayor says, analyzing it, see where it's going to go. I mean, neither of us are spring chickens, and we've been looking at these cases for decades. We can kind of walk through in our minds how it's going to play out after we do our initial analysis and fact determination. We can tell whether resources should be spent on challenging or should we cut our losses and move on. So, yeah, and again, going back to our earlier comments, we don't like to settle cases unless there's a very solid reason to do that. So, a very intense analytical process that we go through.
Can you tell us what's included in I think it was 15,000 a month, and what's not included? What's not included, what the billable rate would be for that?
Sure. Within your packet, you should see your basics that have been done before. Let me talk about those. Those are the phone calls that you are going to be calling me. And let me say this: I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but you'll be stuck with me. It's not going to be a replacement or someone else coming in. You'll be stuck with me. Hopefully, that's a good thing. And I will be at probably 85% of everything. The reason I'm not going to say 100%, I'm sure I get some vacation in there. And I've got a grandchild that's going to be born in June. So my very first one down in Dallas. So I'm probably going to, go down there occasionally. But within that 15,000, it's going to be the day-to-day, the phone calls. If you need ordinances and things reviewed, written, if we need to, I will obviously be at these meetings, special meetings that we have. That will also include training for your police officers and anybody else that needs to have. October, I just spent 12 hours with the police department regarding squatting and what they can and can't do, domestic violence and how that's affecting the community. And again, having not only the officers, but your ordinance officers as well, talking to them about that. And everybody came back and said it went very well, and they have a better understanding of what they can and can't do. In addition to that, it will be updates for the police department. Also, one of the things that I'm pretty specialized in is making sure that we have the police officers ready for prep when they go to court. And I know it seems like you just go and tell the truth, but I know Mayor Nolan understands sometimes you got to have your witnesses and things prepped to make sure. In addition to that, we talked about training on the Open Meetings Act. We talked about other public things that happen within there. One of the other interesting things I want to make sure that we understand is that I'm going to do everything I can to stay within, when I say within, to do everything I can under the flat fee. And when it gets out of that area of specialization, which Randy will talk about momentarily, that's when you'll start to see the rate. So the agreement we have is I'm going to try to do every single thing I can with the assistance of the firm. But once we get to a point where it's a lawsuit or something along those lines, that's when the rest of the firm will come in, and I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I think so you can see in the proposal, it's hourly rate of $185 for the attorneys, $95 for legal assistant support. And that's for the spillover that is outside of what Terry will be providing. And that's not to say that if Terry runs into something that's under the flat fee that is something that he knows that we've been involved with. We spent a lot of time talking about our background and the various matters from soup to nuts on municipal law. He certainly is going to tap into our expertise and run things by us. So, and that's going to be under the flat fee too.
Right. So, but if we do the things we're supposed to do up front, and again, getting those policies and procedures and other things together, that should cut down on the 185 having to be needed down the road. And that, to me, I think is the important thing, getting that foundation in place. If we get that, we think it'll help everybody out. Because, again, you figure labor, contracts, they don't come up every month. They come up every couple years. So you'll be able to budget those things as you sit down and look at costs and things in the future.
So I have a question about that. So really, you're saying the special expertise, that flat, not the flat fee, that hourly rate is really going to kick in when it comes time for litigation. Is that correct? That's what I'm saying. Basically,
litigation, and I would think that if there's a special project, for example, for Taylor at Southfield, we've done some housing work that has created some good results in both of those communities. We're not going to turn that meter on until we talk to the council and get your approval. But it turned into a special project if you elect to put it in that direction. If you don't want to do it, then we wouldn't do it and you would be billed.
Well, so building off of that, what areas of litigation does your firm not handle? Just take it in. Or qualified to handle that you would outsource?
If there was a bond issue, we don't do bond issues. That's not really litigation. Litigation, I can't think of anything that we haven't. We've done class action defense works against sewer association. Good grief. Doing a planning commission or a ZBA appeal right now. I can't think of shipping out anything for any of those communities that we represent. So I think we do it all except for like bond stuff.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, we have at least 16 lawsuits currently right now.
Right.
So tell me, how would you transition to those cases while also helping us migrate any future legal issues?
I'll let you do the transition, and I'll deal with the migration. And I'll start with the migration first. The migration really starts with, when you say future issues, I think it goes back to what I've been saying, doing the right thing up front, making sure that people are trained. And again, that's your job to focus me on, hey, we've got an issue over in the building department or Parks and Rec, wherever. And again, as I said, part of that $15,000 is going to be going through every city policy that you have and making sure that it is up to speed and up to date. There are some things, I don't want to say this here, but I know there are some things that I've seen with my own eyes that are just not up to speed that I know about here in the city. And it could cause potential lawsuits. And, again, that's something that needs to be brought to your attention. And then there has to be the retraining of those individuals in whether it's Parks and Rec, whether it's maintenance, whether it's ordinance, what have you. Once those things are done, that should really cut down or help cut down on some of the lawsuits. And as far as taking the lawsuit over at this point, Randy, I'll let you.
We joked a few moments ago with the mayor about the insurance defense attorneys wanting to take their cases through discovery, and then they'll talk about settling it. Well, if we're honored to receive this blessing of representing the city of Inkster, the very first thing we would do is taking over those cases. We would do an analysis of where we're at. And the same thing we talked about earlier about the analysis of whether this is a case that needs to go forward because there's a principle involved or it's the right thing to do, or whether it's a situation where people are taking advantage of their situation and it ought to be resolved. And courts are pretty amenable these days to facilitations and things like that to get to the settlement stage real fast. So that's something that we would undertake with each and every of those 16 cases. We would look very closely at where they're at and what the future looks like for each one of them.
I have one more. Okay, so what you're saying is that if we have to do the 16 lawsuits where we have to go to court, it would be you leading, or would it be you?
We're working together, collaborating.
I mean, I understand you working together, but it sounds like that Terry is more like on the risk side, risk management side, and helping us get to where we can do things on the right end. Versus you, seems like your firm. I mean, you guys are together, but in the event that we have to go to court, who would be our attorneys going?
It would be the entire firm.
The entire firm. So it could be either one of you guys.
It could be. That is correct.
And let me say this too. It's you're again, if we're honored to get the appointment, it's not just Terry and it's not just Randy.
Right.
Behind us are people that have developed specialties within the law, and depending upon their skill set and what the case involves and what the need is, we might draw them into. So not every attorney these days can master all of the areas. It takes specialties. And so what I'm very proud of in my firm is that over the years, we've managed to diversify backgrounds. So I don't think anybody is a mini me or an icon of me. We've got people that are very good in real estate litigation. We've got people very good in tax appeals, people very good in civil rights, the gamut, just general torts. I've got somebody that is extraordinarily good at your negligence cases. So it all depends. But at the end of the day, none of those files are going to be handled by attorneys that aren't going to be supervised by the people you see here today. We're always going to be aware of what's going on. We're always going to make sure that the right thing is being done, as Terry says, and we're being cost conscious. So you're getting us, but you're getting a whole bunch of people behind us that are very good at what they do.
Okay, that's all. Yeah.
How many attorneys do you have who works for your firm, Crane?
About 10.
Okay. I have one more question. What is your experience dealing with marijuana and lawsuits? With that?
Wow. Marijuana. I'm rather proud of the work we've done in developing different community. It goes to the question you asked earlier about, the community, and each community has its own values. And then one of our communities wanted marijuana to come in. And so we crafted a very, I think, creative ordinance that has spatial. The big lawsuits are being filed by all of these marijuana companies because that is built into these ordinances competition, scoring. You have committees that score and, people, the owners that want these licenses, they come in and they argue over, well, I got a 30 and I should have got a 31 on this score. That's fraught with litigation. I'm very proud of the ordinance that we created that has never been challenged, even though everyone said, all these cities are being sued. Well, not ours because of the way we structured our ordinance. Now, I don't know exactly where you're at in the process. If you already have them here and you're dealing with problems with them, that's a set of issues that we can deal with. I know one community in Oakland County just does not want it, and we've fought tooth and nail, including injunctions and all kinds of stuff in Oakland Circuit to stop, and we have successfully stopped them up there. They have a lot of money, so they're not shy about litigation, but I think we're pretty good in understanding what the state law is and how to navigate through it.
Okay, thank you.
You all have anything? Is there anything else you would like to tell us?
And start and I'll finish.
Well, it is indeed a privilege because this is a dream come true to have the opportunity to represent another community. And I can promise you that we'll pour our heart and soul into it. And I think you'll be pleased with the outcome. I think you'll be delighted with the responsiveness and the quality of work that we do. We're not a fancy firm. We're nuts and bolts. Day in, day out, municipal stuff is what we do. We do it in our sleep, and we love it, and we feel like we're making a difference, and that's why we're here tonight.
And just in follow-up, I want to say thanks to each of you. Again, it's always good coming home and giving back. And even when we were putting the proposal together, I had some people say, that's a lot. You're giving away a lot. Well, you know what? It's not about money. It's about giving back. Like I said, I'm from here. My wife's from here. I have some relatives who live here. And I want to see Inkster come back to what I remember as a kid. I grew up on Penn Street. And this was a time when, my father's grass was just, golden. And you just didn't walk on the grass. And neighbors looked out for each other. And somewhere along the way, things have changed. And I want to be part of rebuilding this city back to what each of you were elected to do. And I hope working together, we can do that. Again, I am your servant or we are your servants, do what you need to do. And we appreciate the opportunity. And I have to say before I leave, this may hurt me a little, but I have to say, go green to Mr. Mayor. So as he shakes his head. But thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.
One more final question. On the RFP, it says that the rate will be adjusted by a lower of the consumer price index or 4% annually of the first beginning of June. Can you tell me what that is? The consumer price index?
Yeah, and you'll hear it. It's U.S. Department of Labor puts it out annually. Well, it puts it out for frequently, but it's a measurement of inflation. So it's what we're trying to do is that as years go by, hoping that we have the honor of being here, that we don't have to negotiate. That this is a formula that would be in place. Now, we're down the road if we are in a situation where parties think that they need to renegotiate the rates. We're always open to that. The whole point of creating a fee structure, and Terry touched on it, is both sides have to be happy with the outcome. And we think that it's a very fair proposal to the city, and we think that we can operate within that structure that we propose. So I know I'm going well beyond your questions, but what we're trying to do is have fairness in the relationship, and that's how we view it. This is what hopefully will be a very warm relationship where we'll value you and you will value our service, and we'll do it at a reasonable rate. That's where we come from.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you
very much.
Thank you.
Can we go up this door?
Yes.
And thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Election, rush, is and is a likes to and tone. Pick. Oh.
You folks have a good evening.
Thank you. We ain't pick up way up. Trust and she's you married is and brings back.
And I use things or in my same parliament.
Yeah. Oh, bye. And that I don't
Like the got you sure.
and
Look at the basement.
fresh. Chance pain and but the living
And
Yeah, they're out there though.
and then that's cool. Thanks, you. That's applause.
what's that? Okay.
They here does I took part of the opposite of land at the I think I must steps in.
So, this cool. You know, it's what I like that word, but you know, read it. Stops. It's weird.
The color sound I have.
They picked. The usual my thought is fine.
We needed a
I heard his talk about coffee. I'm trying to see if I can understand how to read it.
All I thought what y'all threw was something I smelled, but that's all.
I will go peek good.
what was that?
Right. I'll give it to Lee.
Oh, where's it? Oh, George Craig. He made was good.
Behind it.
The afternoon. Well, I did that hunting the name thing.
So, 35 so
Back on and kicked it. I did lose. This is what John says.
because we know it.
Pretty honest. It's not used to it. I'll clear contact. And then we have a budget. We have something with the budget today. Did we get budget book? He said he's just gonna get visitation with them.
Because
Like, you know, people could reach that threshold, but I know that you can like get what's asked, but if they still let you step first.
Okay. Okay.
It's the email.
I was going
I don't know use. Oh, look, there's a place in that because I didn't. Nobody received it.
Right. Okay. I was just making sure. I did things like
it always was tricky back with when doors you didn't make. And I saw so many. Never shut all of a sudden. Oh, you had to bragging rights. Still.
I just can't get nothing but no, it was just calm. I'm just saying. She look fun. That is it. Coffee. That's why I play shop there.
See one. Oh, it's just in this part. See all these. She waiting on one councilor. She went to the bathroom. She knew what up.
We can stand.
Miss that shit. We're staying wherever you like, or just come back.
And Blackpool's item. Let's see.
And then
We've got that.
yeah, I know.
Make sparrows. Asparagus.
Good evening. My name is Byron Nolan. I'm the mayor of the city of Inkster. Welcome tonight. I'm glad to have you here for an interview. Well, we're going to start. We have 10 questions pre-prepared that we're asking folks. The council may ask all of them, some of them, none of them. And they can also ask whatever questions that come to mind based on some of your responses. I'm going to give you a couple minutes now to tell us a little bit about your firm, kind of the work you do, the experience you have, the attorneys who would be involved with this particular client, the city, and then we will jump right into the questions.
Thank you. Good evening, and may it please this most honorable body. My name is Todd Russell Perkins. I'm an attorney. I am present tonight with Kenneth Wilson and Justin Andrews, attorneys in our firm, in our office. And I have been an attorney since 1996. I have worked in a myriad of different capacities. I have I guess, honed my craft over the years to become more poignant in my representation of not only individual, particularly well-regarded, what I consider VIP treatment. I had my experience with municipal started with Highland Park. I've done a little bit of individual representation of politicians prior to that. And when I serviced in Highland Park, it was, and if I can share a little story, Ken Wilson, our paths probably shouldn't have otherwise crossed, but we had children who were in soccer. And he made a statement to me, something going on in the city of Detroit with the mayor at the time, Kilpatrick, and his ability to see through all of the madness and declare it for what it was. I said, this guy really sees it. And one of these days, I wish I could work for him. When the mayor Wyndham got elected in Highland Park, he and I had grown up together, and he asked if I would come and help and become the city attorney. And at the time, the state was focused on the emergency manager concept, particularly for small African-American cities under Snyder. And Ken Wilson, who was at the time with Troublecock, doing great work in the labor capacity, he helped come in to help us provide a balanced budget for Highland Park and stop the emergency manager from coming in. What's significant about that is this is an individual who took leave from his firm, who didn't charge what we couldn't afford it. And what we did do with Highland Park was we gave him a flat rate, because that was the only way that throughout all the balancing that they did, we had to give them something, because this is not something, when you serve municipalities, you don't serve to generate wealth, because oftentimes, particularly people like myself, are serving people who look like me. Although since that time, I have had the pleasure of being in various different municipalities, whether Ken Wilson is primarily in Harper Woods, Huron Township, and I don't want to necessarily reiterate what's in our submission, but it is it's a feel-good work when you can serve people and provide them an elite service that they may not otherwise have been accustomed to. Provide them what they see in corporate structures, and that's what it's important that we have sort of a small firm, 10 lawyers, 8 to 10 lawyers, but yet we want to take and marshal our assets. And not only that, we intend to increase our assets as we increase our footprint in the municipal area. But it is to see cities, particularly like Inkster, that's growing. And, I know that you all know, and I'm sure you know, the opportunity that Inkster has as far as growth. And to be at the foot of that growth, and to be the person that says, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, I was there when that happened. Whether we continue as a city attorney, I always like to speak what we envision to be the truth into the future, that we would be your city attorney. So I'm here tonight. Again, Mr. Wilson, Ken Wilson's experience really far exceeds mine, particularly in labor, benefit restructuring, all those things that are important in balancing budgets within the city. Justin, he has, and it's the reason why you have us three here, because we worked in this municipal space. I would indicate in our submission, James Stump was one of the individuals we mentioned in there. He has now, and we like to say that people who come to our firm, they leave and they grow. And he took a big position with the city of Detroit, and we intend to replace him. It won't be easy to replace that kind of institutional knowledge, but we have other individuals, particularly, I think, the pooled knowledge between myself, Ken, and Justin. We also have other associates at our firm who would be coming in to assist. So that is the Perkins Law Group. That is our brand, service, and our commitment to bringing a service to areas that look to grow, that look to be an example and a service to your community. So that is us. I stand for any questions. I give them an opportunity. I don't want to hog the podium, but again, that's us.
Sure. You guys like to?
Oh. Good evening to this most honorable body. My name is Justin Andrews. I was an intern with Todd Perkins when we had the Highland Park municipal contract. Once interning there, I learned how to thoroughly take care of that city. And with regards to the legal aspects, our responsibilities primarily were to organize the docket, contact police officers, ensure that subpoenas went out on time, take the appropriate witnesses for our weekly court docket, and prosecute those cases efficiently, From that time, I was brought back to Highland Park under the different regime of Mayor Hubert Yop, and I was the assistant city attorney there again, and once again, the same capacity I was serving as I was interning for the Perkins Law Group. And in essence, that is my experience when it comes to municipal work. Very dedicated to ensuring the preservation of the city, to keep the city shielded from any forms of liability, civil liability, which I think is the utmost role that I would, possess, and that I would demonstrate in this capacity. That's all I have to make you.
My name is Ken Wilson, as Todd indicated. I met Todd, I don't know, it must have been about, a little over 10 years ago, 14 years ago. And I was attempting to coach soccer. I was fooling them for a while. I had never played soccer, but kids were young and I was able to pull it off. What was fun is Todd and I each played smaller college football back east. So we would wait till sundown when no one could see how bad we were, and we would throw around the football, and we got to know each other, and we did some talking. He called me over to Highland Park, and I like Todd. I like the idea of the kind of practice he had. He gained a lot of wisdom. He sees a lot of things, and he gets real good judgment. I can never overstate the importance of good judgment, and he had his hands full at Highland Park, and I was able to come over and assist. My background, I ended up in labor relations, and I'm very specialized now, labor relations, HR, and benefits through the side door, in the sense I was hired by the city of Detroit as their Act 312 attorney with the arbitrations with the Detroit Police Officers Association, DPOA, and then the LSA, Lieutenants and Sergeants Association. These things were big cases with a profound impact on the city. I used to say, if things went really bad, you don't want to look at it just dollars and cents. Things go bad, or maybe they got closed down rec centers. Maybe they got closed down senior citizen centers. The ones who may not have the best voice are the ones who could be hurt if things went bad. And I considered it a privilege that Archer hired me, Mayor Archer, I'm sorry, to be lead counsel in the Act 312 proceedings. And that was in '99. The DPOA was especially significant. That was the locomotive that just pulled the whole train. What the DPOA got in terms of wage increases and benefit changes, the firefighters of allied rank would get. Then what the DPOA got by way of wages, the LSA would get. And then LSA firefighters of the allied rank with the LSA would get that. So the DPOA was a very significant arbitration. I always considered it a privilege that he accorded me that responsibility. Back in the 70s, Coleman Young once felt that a poor Act 312 decision was almost put the city into bankruptcy. And that was the significance of these proceedings. I worked under Mayor Archer, and then Mayor Kilpatrick kept me on. I worked with Mayor Kilpatrick very closely on labor matters in Act 312 proceedings. I put Archer on the stand twice. I remember I put Kilpatrick on the stand. And then I was hired by Mayor Cockrell. I served in the same capacity, and then I was hired by Mayor Bing. As time went on, late in Mayor Archer's term, I also did a lot of the labor relations. They had a great long-term labor relations director, Roger Cheek, and I worked with him on the negotiations, especially in the areas of benefits, pension in particular, but also retiree health care. After that, I went over to Wayne County as labor relations director. It was something I wanted to do for a few years, and we avoided an emergency manager, and we accomplished a lot. But I don't want to say there were times I felt at Wayne County there might have been easier way to do some of the things that we did. We accomplished quite a bit, and to their credit, they're actually giving some of that back now to the employees. So we're glad to see that. But I did a lot of benefits work there. It was fun to run a department. That was new to me. So I handled all the grievance administration, FMLA issues, PDA issues, unfair labor practice charges, arbitrations on the grievances that went to arbitration. In CR cases, pretty much handled the whole labor and employment and human resource, all the issues. So that's what I did there. Since I was in a law firm, Abbott Nicholson, when I did much of the city work, and then we have a large Lansing firm, Fraser Travel. Working with Todd, I've done much of the same thing. I've been doing a lot of work for Detroit Public Schools, a lot of grievances on fair labor practice charges, again, dealing with everything from ADA issues to wage and hour issues. Wayne County, I've done 2 major Act 312s for them since leaving, and spent time on a consulting contract, assisting basically with pension and health care issues. And I've been doing a lot of work in bargaining for 36 District Court. I'm specialized to the extent I don't move out of that lane too often, but it's a pretty wide lane. I do, from just across the board, any kind of human resource and labor issues. In terms of my clients, I understand the importance of this work. One thing, we make decisions and we've got a lot of fiscal considerations, but it's also, you always want to remember that, in this world, people look at their jobs. It's an unpredictable world, and people look at their jobs as the safe haven from some of the unpredictability in the world. So when you make these decisions, it's just important to realize, the impact you're having on people. Now, sometimes the decisions are hard, and we don't want to spend money we don't have. We don't, even if we do have it, we don't want to spend it responsibly. But we also have to remember, as I'm sure you all do, we impact lives with our decisions. And it's important to remember we're impacting the lives of our residents also with our decisions. So I enjoy the work. I'm specialized in that regard. And that's essentially my background and how I approach.
Thank you. All right. Questions?
Yes. So you mentioned Highland Park a few times. So I assume it was probably very similar to the city of Inkster. how, I guess, one, how did that go on like the flat fee rate? And are you guys still the attorneys at Highland Park?
Man,
Yes,
yes, thank you. Well, Scott. So in Highland Park, we had, I look at Highland Park as, comparatively speaking to St. Inkster, Highland Park is sort of our G League, so to speak. The big league is Inkster, comparatively speaking. I mean, you're far outside Highland Park by square mileage and by population. And it's really population that really drives it, because you're talking about how do you generate money. It's based upon your homes, being people who pay taxes and the businesses who pay taxes. And specifically as it relates to how we were paid, as you recall, as I said it, they were going to bring in an emergency manager. So what we did was we charged them $12,500 a month. And it was, I described it as a loss leader. You know, my younger brother, who's a lawyer, he's a judge now in 36th District Court. He says, "Oh, you don't do this, you know." And I told him, I said, "Shut up. You know, we grew up next to Highland Park. We North Enders. So we grew up next to Highland Park. We owned beer windows for, you know, and it really, when you give something, there's a spiritual component to it. When you give out something, you're going to get something back. It's almost like a human aspect of tithing, you know, as we do with our churches. But so that was $150,000. What we did do was we spent all of that money staffing, you know, because you had to have an on-site clerk, and we have to have someone. I would do the city council meetings because I was the city attorney, and I would do a lot of the court hearings when necessary if we had some trials or we had set. But the points and times, and one of the significant things that we did, and Ken will remember this, if you recall, Highland Park at the time, they had this bond, and it was a significant bond. They're paying so much interest on this bond. It was about $25 million for a city that just really couldn't afford it. And what we did was we leveraged our social assets. We leveraged the idea that once they didn't bring in an emergency manager, and they recognized we could operate a city and we could do those things. Now, we still had that water issue looming up there, but the bonds, as it relates, they came back from years before my existence here. And Fifth Third and the state allowed us to buy our way out of those bonds. And, you know, so we took, you know, because at one point in time, they had the highest millage of any city in the state of Michigan. And so when we left there, they did. So, you know, you take those things, we couldn't do everything. And so we were the only city that chose mediation. If you remember the act, I think it was Act 426, you know, you had the emergency manager, you had 4 different options, and one was mediation, and we chose mediation. We were the only ones who did it. And, you know, you also had bankruptcy. That's what happened with City of Detroit. And we chose mediation. We were able to essentially resolve every issue except the water. Now, they've done that now, but much to the chagrin of Mayor McDonald. I think because of what she's facing, as you may recognize, she's facing a recall rate. You know, because I still stay tied to the city. I'm a business owner in the city. I have a restaurant that's not operating right now, but I'm a landowner in the city. So goes that city. So I want to go, which is upward. But again, you know, that's what Ken says. You make decisions and you do what you think is the right decision. And, you know, if someone else wants to market that as a bad decision, then, you know, sometimes you face the weight. And I hope that she makes it through this recall. But I hope I answered your questions as it relates to the $150,000 a year was our salary.
So then do you also represent any communities, I guess, similar to Inkster then?
Well, I am the as-needed counsel for the city of Detroit. So if you recall, when Conrad Mallett, Justice Mallett, as he was his Supreme Court justice, so I always give him his credit. Justice Mallett, Mayor Duggan wanted to appoint Justice Mallett as his city attorney. City council didn't feel like I'm going to have the city attorney that's going to be, because city attorney not only serves you, but serves the mayor and serves the city. And that's the spirit of it. So the city council says, we're not going to have that with you here. So when we don't agree with you, we would need an as-needed counsel. So I do represent them in that. And I believe, you know, one of the projects that we did recently work on, if you recall, the city council created an ordinance on capturing and trying to recapture some of those $600 million of funds where people lost their homes, people lost and couldn't pay this money because the city was overcharging residents. And so what city council has done is they created an ordinance, and the administration was against the ordinance. So we were called in to write an opinion. And as I checked maybe 3 weeks ago, it was good enough that they didn't want to bring it into the administration didn't want to argue it any further. Now it comes down to the issue of implementation. Do they implement it? But at least we were able to provide an opinion that it was legally saleable. So City of Detroit, at one time we were working at the airport. But as far as a comparable city, we have Harper Woods, we have Huron Township. I think those are smaller cities. Harper Woods might be comparable to Inkster. We have Dearborn Heights. I imagine Dearborn Heights would be the closest example, approximately and demographically.
That's perfect. Thank you.
What is your philosophy regarding taking a case to trial versus a settlement?
Well, I think that's where you have someone like myself or somebody like Ken. I'm a trial lawyer, just like your mayor. We're trial lawyers, but I don't allow my ego and what do we think we can accomplish, because sometimes you can win by losing. And what I mean by that is you have a risk analysis individual who works in your firm, and Ken does great at risk analysis. So looking at what's the upside of litigation, what's the downside, like what's the upside of winning, what's the downside? Because sometimes you can win and you're so close to where you would be if you settled that where's the value in going to trial? Because trial, depending on where you're at, because there's certain things like Act 312, I consider it kind of a trial, but it's sort of like an arbitrator down at the labor relations in the state building. That's a little different, because in an Act 312, you're thinking about not only the benefits, you're thinking about all these things which you're going to pay either your police force or your firefighters or any unit of public service. Those are different concepts. But trial in and of itself, something that would be where the city's being sued, and that's a very real issue when you have, because I just can't think of that one with that you all dealt with in the past 8 or 9 years with RoboCop. I can't think of his name right now. It's interesting. Melendez. I mean, I'm sure you're still reeling from that significant amount of money. But at the end of the day, that type of graphic that you have in that, I still don't, and I don't know the intricacies of the case, but, you look at it. I just recently served as an expert witness in federal court. If you see Alexander Ansari is an individual who was declared to be innocent. There was a police officer who who pushed his case through the system for various different reasons, and it just wasn't him. And he knew it wasn't him. And so the city took a position. They offered him $100,000. He spent 8 years in prison, I just saw the city is so, I saw egos in that situation, because I'm just the expert all I was talking about was the discovery process, meaning like the proliferation of information that should have been exchanged in the criminal process that would allow this person a fair opportunity to defend himself. That didn't happen. That's what I was there for. But as I know everybody who's there, the judge, the only people I told the jury, only people that don't know each other are you, the jury. I said, everyone else knows each other. We've worked with each other. The defendant, who was a police officer, who was on trial, I said, I've worked with him. I don't have any qualms with him. But in this case, he did something wrong. They came back with a $10 million verdict. And here's what's going to happen. They're going to object to it. They're going to appeal. And I suspect, based upon how that trial went, the Wolf Mueller is going to win that trial. And what's going to wind up happening, they're going to wind up paying appellate costs. They're going to wind up paying interest from the date of the judgment, significantly more than the $10 million. So to your question is, you need to have an opportunity to fully sit down, examine all of the facts, examine all of the information, and look at where does the city want to find themselves in an outcome based upon something bad happening. And I think that removing emotion, it helps. But see, you all are, I never want to be where you all are, because you are in the court of public opinion.
You know, I can sit here and I talk about the law and I can talk about this other thing, but you go to the grocery store, you see the people in the store. So it's a different thing. So we also have to have some assuaging of how to balance what you all have to understand and convey to your citizenry. So it's a lot.
I asked that question because a lot of times here when we settle cases, it just depends. It goes, you know, the residents have to pay it on the tax roll. And so that's why this question is very important to make a reference to for our residents.
And if I could say one other thing, and I'm sorry, I don't feel like I'm hungry, but I get excited about it because when I first got in the city into Highland Park, they had a lot of police misconduct cases. And we didn't have too many during the 4 years I was there, but we still had to clean those up. And Joel Scar represented a plaintiff in a case. So what I did was I went to city council. I asked them for the opportunity because I looked at the video, I looked at it, and I know the work that Joel Scar does, and I worked with him. But I said, I know what kind of good work he does. I said, let's immediately start out with the facilitation before he even filed suit. And so what you got was some credit with the plaintiff. The plaintiff says, one, you guys take me serious. Two, you're trying to make amends. And rather than this being there were some significant injuries from this lady, and it was a lady. So, you know, you've got this big ogreish police officer who put hands on this woman. And so rather than you're looking at $600,000, $700,000 for a city like Highland Park, we wound up paying $56,000. I mean, yeah, and we were we couldn't afford $56,000, but we definitely couldn't afford having $8. And then probably having to bring in other legal firms to assist in. Sorry.
Off the hell, okay.
Do I have any other questions? I got to get wrapped up.
Last quiz question. What is your experience with marijuana litigation?
Well, I've represented a lot of marijuana clients. I've actually right now and in the process of what I've been representing are not marijuana clients, but tangentially related to the marijuana business, which are people who make the products or make the nutrients for the degrading marijuana. But as it relates to the marijuana ordinance, before I left, even though Highland Park has had, and you've seen Highland Park has had really a storied history on trying to get a marijuana ordinance. They had one, and then it was repealed. But as I left office, I wrote the marijuana ordinance for it. And really what I did was, I'll tell you honestly, I went to Ann Arbor, copied theirs, and just made it adaptable for a city the size of Highland Park. And that was ultimately what, besides some amendments and some changes that they had, that was essentially the ordinance that they had, which is still, unfortunately, they can't get that together. And I say unfortunately to the extent that if it's a city that wants to have this and is missing out on revenue, that's unfortunate when the city's not able to benefit from that.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
As far as this body here and us being your clients, do you have a policy for responding to client emails and calls?
Well, what we have is, we would also, everyone's going to be on an email chain. We have staff. Beyond the lawyers, you need someone who's directly related because we're dealing with clients, we're in court sometimes. We have what we consider as sort of an executive staff who would be included in our email chains. To the extent, depending on, we'll get back to anyone within 24 hours. But some things need to be answered right away. And that's what our staff is there for, to send us that bold letter text or that email that comes across our phone that says, call Councilman Chisholm now, or something to that effect, or call the city manager, or call a supervisor in a particular department now. Those are the things. So, we're going to be responsive. And that's why I think working as a team, you not only have us three right here, but you have the benefit of having everyone in our fund associated with us and willing to serve in any particular capacity. So, 24 hours. It's, we want to get back to you.
Yeah. If I might add that the nature of my practice is, I like to believe on Clara that he probably, close to 24 hours. I think I know, and he came through was in mind, and you try to, distill what's really an emergency, but, or even if it isn't an emergency, municipalities I represent, and I represent them, maybe I've been 5 or 6 now. They're doing a lot of their work on up. I'm glad that they have the confidence. I get calls all the time down. It's just, yeah, I can use the whole HR gamut, the labor relations gamut, the benefits gamut. So I get those calls, and I'm used to them. I give the office a lot. I'm in collective bargaining quads, but even so, like bargaining moves slow, and they were great. So I get back. It's easy for me to get past quickly. Another thing is the stall I'm doing since, let's say, other than some of the ordinance work that I've done with municipalities, I've been pretty specialized since Einstein 2000. There isn't a lot I haven't seen in the HR and labor as the benefits area. So I can get back pretty quick. Sometimes I'll say, this is my closing information, but I'd like to look at a little bit more. I can get back this evening, tomorrow morning. And I can get back to the preliminary pretty quick stuff. Thank you.
Like you.
Freddie, you listen? No. Oh, you should. Customer dollar.
Okay, under your pricing, can you explain the extra require billing in addition to monthly installments? And then I have another one too for specialized matters. In addition to the monthly retainer fee, if extraordinary unforeseen major litigation makes this appropriate, can you explain that?
Absolutely. I thought that was going to be one of the first ones. Because it's a very, it's necessary conversation. So what happens? I think Councilwoman Rutledge asked about litigation and where you want to see litigation go. There's some unique areas of litigation. As a trial lawyer, I feel like I can try any case, but I also need the support. So if it's an issue regarding taxation, that we're equipped to do that, but we may want to come to you and say, listen, and that's part of the balancing as it relates to what you're going to talk about as far as the cost of litigation. You have us, but at the same time, if it becomes something beyond what was anticipated, we don't anticipate you ever being sued. But we know the reality is that you do. In cities, in any municipality, something happens, whether it be a crack where somebody slips on. And those are the type of lawsuits they will handle. That's not a problem. But we're talking about the class action type of lawsuits, those specialized areas in which we need to call in additional sort of backup and be a part of that. And that may be something that we would ask for permission, but it's up to you to drive, anything like, in my general private retainer agreements, I tell people, I say a lot of times we'll have a flat rate fee or we'll have an hourly fee, but I never spend the client's money without the client's permission. And if I do, it's coming out of my pocket unless the client otherwise approves, if that makes sense. So sometimes I've been in cases where I wanted an expert. The client ran out of money, but I wanted to win. So had the client paid enough money, it was enough for me to be able to hire this expert. And we ultimately were successful. Well, I call that a loss leader because from that case, other cases flow. So that's how you have to approach it. I hope I'm answering that particular question, but there are times which you'll see, hopefully we won't, but there are specialized areas in litigation and protracted litigation that just can't be anticipated as we stand here today.
Okay, so you are aware in your portfolio, you are aware that we have 16 cases going as of right now.
We do know, I didn't know it was 16, but I knew it was over 10.
It's a 6.
Yeah, I knew it was over 10, yes.
Could be possibly more or less, whatever. Okay, so would that be up under that flat fee?
As it is right now. Now, I don't expect 16 cases to go to trial, right? I just don't expect all 16 cases to go to trial. So as we sit here right now, I would say yes. But if something in those cases happens that turns it and makes it veer off course to something that we would have to come back to you and ask you, and here, let me tell you this much. If we're your city attorney, we're your city attorney. If you tell us no, well, then we'll go do the best we can.
All right, okay.
You understand? So we're not going to go and leave you astray. We'll just tell you, hey, this is something that makes sense. And then you say, look, hey, Perkins, you're our lawyer. we pay your bills, and you're paying our bills, and we'll tell you what some of the outcomes could be by not choosing these routes. But no, we understand you have a bevy of litigation right now, and that we absorb that as part of what we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
But you said you had a second one.
She has both.
Huh?
I think you asked both to your question.
I did ask both.
Oh, you did? Okay, I'm sorry.
I mean, just to chime in, we haven't went to trial in the last decade. Okay. We haven't had a trial in the city of Inkster in a while.
Yeah.
So our experience has been, cases get worked up like typical cases. And then at some point, facilitation, settlement conference, they get settled. We're looking for someone who could analyze it earlier. And we're hoping by the flat fee that we requested, we give you an incentive to say, hey, if you look at a case at the beginning, do our preliminary legwork to find out the facts, and it's not a good case for us, that you will come tell us the truth. Because we may need to resolve it earlier than at the end. When you're paying by the hour, obviously it's an incentive to make money is to build the bid. I mean, we're all business people. But from the city's perspective, sometimes I think that puts the city attorney at odds with the city. But nothing's ever perfect. I mean, it is what it is. But that's why we ask for a flat fee to see if we can try to get these cases down, first of all, by doing risk management. I love the fact you have a lot of experience doing that, and get the number of cases down. And if that happens, we're still paying what we're paying because that's the benefit of the bargain. Right now you may lose in the first 6 months, but if we settle 6, 7 cases, you may be winning. And we just ask firms to see if they can take that risk, essentially.
I just found this measure. Why you all have the benefit that you have a lawyer as your mayor. He recognizes that he sees these cases as they are. I'm sure he'll take his role in how you govern your city the same way, not just because he's a lawyer, but you have that introspective or that intrinsic value of having that knowledge. But, one thing I've never done, I've never decided because I can bill a client that I will. That's just, it's unfortunate that you see that so often, particularly with larger firms. And I'm not here to denigrate, talk about anybody. But one thing about it is, I just know what Highland Park meant for me and the money that we lost, from the perspective of delegating resources. But look, after that, we were appointed to represent the significant players in the Flint litigation, which became very successful. So it was those type of things that, again, it's the spirit of how you operate that's going to pay off dividends in the future. And you might not see it now. It's just like God's timing. We want some things to happen right now, right here, right now. He would design that. And the same way here, he's already spoken what you want him to do. Even if you don't know it, he does. And I truly believe that.
If you were selected, how soon could you transition?
Immediately. We have capacity to start immediately with Justin. I think practically speaking or mechanically speaking, you can't go without the regular routine of having a city attorney representing individuals with ordinance violations and code violations and interacting with law enforcement. That's immediate. But yeah, as far as sitting and talking, individually, so we don't violate any Open Meetings Act, because that's something that we don't want to do either.
Right.
That's going to require us to be available, whether it be myself, Ken, or Justin. And we would also be introducing you to other individuals from our firm. This is Caitlin Krapel's awesome young lawyer who really is, delved into the litigation, but also is a great writer. And that's what you need. So the answer is immediate.
Okay, great. Have any other questions?
One last question. Is there anything that your firm doesn't handle, like filings, appeals?
Well, I would say the taxation issue, even though Jim Stump had some experience in it, taxation from the perspective of litigation, that's one of the areas where I can litigate, but I would also want to have support in that particular area. But as far as from a municipal perspective, I think that we are, for lack of a better term, a soup to nuts operation.
Here.
We've heard that. Anybody have anything else? But we want to thank you guys for coming. Very thorough interview. We appreciate all the information. We'll be making a decision soon.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right.
We go. Can we go?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not the care.
Have a good night. Think you guys need a bathroom break? Let's take a little 5-minute break, please. Let's take a little 5-minute recess until we, actually, let's have a motion to close up the interview process.
So move. Second.
Been properly moved in second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Let me ask you guys, want to wait till Wednesday and deal with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that.
So then let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll start with the budget.
So the contract.
I should take that. First, what's in the was in.
You go, trying to bring in
All the things.
well, see, you start to shoot.
But so good after the baby face.
Or please.
With trouble. I got fast. One of them Tuesday with all the time. A cold, sudden, a cold. Don't turn on like a corner. I'm not cold. You put, I think I put a little bit so go pushing a bit of life. Throw in neck. Look, if I don't come back in few.
That's what's up. Even but
Night.
I went to all the news.
Sabbath.
You bet the song could be it.
The tides.
Up it up, so it's 5.
Well, the posts, the Henderson's.
Well, you probably used to me.
Boy, Nathan King. Hey,
Miss Howard, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
You're
Yeah, Sam.
Yes, how are you?
I'm doing
How are
good.
you? Man, the ones of the South, very pleasant tree. We've got the intercounty.
I be.
Our faces dire, linebacker, but the,
I be with you.
do it.
You in the 6 bag.
We're just about it. Was your first,
What do you do? And I was looking at them hard. And I was just saying, then the girl went, oh, and you like that's mom. That's how you do.
some guy came out of the old work that shouldn't do some from the worst.
Like, what's problem?
We had to go horrors. She always looking back.
They could they
Like, I'm tired.
I mean, I ain't the dust. They are still on fire in their can. It's in a can. Pooh. It's a dirty fucking It's probably just a stuff. What's happened?
Standing guy, see it toss bombs, the gal fires.
Those are the
It's a little
Let's get going.
this way. Point blank thing is in there.
Or is this that needed?
Oh, you got going now.
Nothing up with
Now,
well, I'll get the goes this time.
you have to do a lot for tea. Not
And to our movement, it's in the
down this and acknowledge you requirement. Now step aside.
And you're saying with like the bomb has to this out
And I got promo and hurt you with you, but yeah, it's music for that.
Piece. On Wednesday, we're gonna go through the general fund on Wednesday, I believe, and try to get as far as we can, and then we'll meet again Friday for whatever we don't get.
Wait, this Friday? We agree on that date?
I know. I was.
Y'all pick them dates.
I didn't agree to that date. I did not.
You got a hot date?
Looking at you.
Yeah, bring them.
Friday, right?
Yeah, this Friday. This Friday.
Well, look, we'll get as much as we can done Wednesday, and we'll see where we're at.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's fair.
We do what we got to do.
So, yeah. And I'll watch. Just
Ready? So good evening, everyone. Obviously, you guys have been here for some time, so I'm going to keep it, try and keep it fairly brief. Obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to ask those, and I will, answer those as best as I can. Just wanted to, as the mayor indicated, wanted to kind of give you guys an update and kind of let you know where we are, the direction that we're heading, the steps that we're going to need to take. First and foremost, just wanted to let you guys know it was, it's always our intention to provide information, at least on a monthly basis. And we haven't been able to do that, working with the mayor and the transition and everything. We haven't been able to do that. And I'm speaking not only on my behalf, but the city's consultants and advisors, Manor, the accounting firm Manor, because we're still having to invest a lot of time in terms of cleaning up the information for the current fiscal year. We've run into, some pretty important obstacles. One is that there are a number of transactions that are had not gotten entered into the accounting system. And then we have some issues with information that is in there that's, in short, basically it's just in the wrong ledger account. So we're having to go through and, things are being booked. They're just not in the right account. So it's hard to track that information, hard to really get a complete sense of where we are if transactions are not in the accounting system or the transactions are in the accounting system and they're incorrect. So we've been spending a good portion of our time cleaning up the current fiscal year books, which is really necessary in order for us to make a good faith effort with next year's fiscal budget. The other thing, as you know, we've been prioritizing under the mayor's direction the FY23 audit. That audit obviously is late. It was due in December of 22. We're continuing. I'm sorry, December 23. Yeah. We've gotten the FY22 audit completed. We've got made a lot of progress on the FY23 audit. That's an issue because, once you reach a certain point, the state can start withholding payments. So we have reached that point where the state has started to withhold payments. The mayor did make a request for, and when I say payments, namely we're talking about revenue sharing and Act 51 monies that go to our roads. The mayor did make a request, and we did get that. The request was granted by the state that they did not withhold the most recent revenue sharing payment. So that was important because we're now at the point of at the end of the fiscal year, we're no longer making tax collections. So we're having to be really mindful of our cash flow, making sure that we don't run into any unnecessary obstacles in that regard. So getting the audit completed is the number one priority. In addition to the payments from the state, we are in the process of completing a bond transaction for the water department. And in order for us to get that transaction completed, because there's certain funds that are available for us, once we issue the bonds, issue the debt, we can qualify for a grant from the state where they'll essentially but they'll provide grants for a large portion of the funds. We're talking about $20 million in funds that we would be raising, and probably about 80-90% of that would be taken on by the state via the form of a grant. But for this fiscal year, the state's current fiscal year, we have to have the audit done by probably the early part of July. Otherwise, we're going to miss out on those funds for this fiscal year. So
$20 million.
So we're needing to.
Water department.
I'm sorry?
That 20 million, that's in the water.
In the water department. That's in the water department. So that's really needed for infrastructure. And then one of the important things from that bond financing is not tied. The state is not going to be providing any write-off of that money, but we also want to purchase the water meters. One of the things we'll be getting into after we do the general fund, probably late May, early June, will be the water budget, where we can discuss the rates and everything that's going on, and we can discuss that more in depth in terms of the need for the water meters, because we are continue to experience, as we have in the past, a lot of water loss. So one of the biggest factors that we can really tackle in terms of trying to manage our water rates is plugging the water loss that we incur from just not being able to accurately bill all of the customers. So we really want to get the money, get the bond debt done as quickly as possible so we can get these new meters. We think that's going to really make a sizable dent in terms of the revenue streams for the water department and provide some relief when we look at the water rates. And so, like I said, we'll be getting into more in depth of that once we get to the water fund, which is going to be towards the end of the budget process. Where we are now, we've gotten through the general fund. We're planning to provide that to you guys electronically tomorrow. We'll start with hard copies for everyone on Wednesday. We will have that ready for the meeting on Wednesday. But I do want to, kind of tie all of this together, because we are, having to prioritize things. As I said, the audit, trying to clean up FY24, the current fiscal year, as well as working on the FY25 budget. And one of the things that we've had to go through, as you guys know, we're under a deficit elimination plan. So we're trying to make sure we're adhering to that as best as we possibly can. And one of the things that we're required to do when we provide the fiscal year budget, the mayor's recommended budget, we have to provide year-end projections. And so that's where it gets important for us to make sure we've got good quality information so we can let you guys know how this fiscal year is projecting out
in terms of the remaining 3 months of this fiscal year. Now we're down to a couple months now. But, we have to provide that information, the projection. So we're really combing through everything that's in the system now so we have an idea of where we are financially for the current fiscal year. So, I feel that we've made progress. We have a good idea. We know that there's a lot of work. We're going to be moving things around. We also, we'll be obviously providing you with the numbers for the requested budgets that we got from all the departments, as well as the mayor's recommendation. So you'll have that for general fund. Like I said, we'll be able to get that out tomorrow electronically. But just wanted to kind of give you guys some context in terms of not only the fiscal budget, but where, all the important steps that are going to have to occur. Back to the bond financing, one of the things just to kind of, get you guys a understanding chronologically, as I mentioned, we wanted to have the month of May to give you guys time to process this fiscal year's budget. For everything outside of the water rates, we're going to be spending the month of May. We have a firm that's going to be processing the numbers for the water fund to kind of come up with some options on those water rates. They're going to be doing that during the month of May. And then we can bring you all the detailed information at the beginning of June, which will give us the month of June to process that water fund budget. As I mentioned, we need to have the audit done by the 1st of July. We expect that we're going to have to file an updated deficit elimination plan. And we're literally talking days here. Once that audit is back, we're going to have to come with a deficit elimination plan, which is really an update to you guys, and ask that you all adopt that, because the state's going to look for that in order for them to approve the bond transaction. So, the next 2 months are going to be, pretty vital, but we're going to be trying to provide you all as much information ahead of time. We don't want to, put you guys, put your backs to the wall and have to make, very important decisions in a very short timeline. So we just want to communicate to you guys what's kind of in front of us for the next couple of months. Again, we're continuing to focus on the audit. We're going to continue to focus on cleaning up this current fiscal year, and at the same time, working on the budget and getting you guys that information and answering any questions for next fiscal year. So there's a lot going on. Normally, we wouldn't, we would have had the audit in our back, in our rearview mirror. We wouldn't be questioning the information that's in the system currently. We would be able just to focus on the current, the mayor's recommended budget and the adopted budget for next year. But the situation really has us focusing on all three of these things at once, and it's really it's a pretty dynamic, fluid situation. So just wanted to give you guys that context and let you all know, really what the next couple months are going to look like. There's going to be a lot of, obviously, I'm sure you guys are going to have a lot of questions. This is the first budget for this council, and you're coming in at a very critical time. So we just want to let you guys know, what's going to be expected of you, what's going to be needed of you, and to let you know we want to be in front of this. And that's why we wanted to, the goal, the mayor said, let's get this recommended budget in April. Tomorrow's the last day of April. So, we're going to be able to at least to check that box. We, want to give you guys a month to be able to digest that budget for not only general fund, but the other funds outside of the water. I think, we'll have the water rate info 1st of June, late May, and then that'll give us the month of June, which will put us ahead of making final adoption, sometime by, I think, the second meeting of June, assuming we don't need a special meeting. So I said a lot. If there's any questions, please.
I have something to. Okay, so when did you say we're going to get the books?
We'll have the books with the general fund and a couple other funds on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, this Wednesday?
This Wednesday.
Okay. So my next question is the bond. So you said you have to have the audit done and have the elimination.
So the state won't approve the bond issue without an audit. Okay. Because right now we're audit compliance. So we have to have the bond, we have to have the audit done in order for the state to approve the bond issue.
and just it's kind of just a format that they follow because we're in a deficit elimination. They won't approve us, so we have to have we make the application. Essentially, everybody knows they're not going to approve it, but then we'll come with a deficit elimination plan and then take essentially the alternate route. So the state has been very, very transparent with us. They've been working with us. We talk with them on a regular basis. So everybody's kind of lining this up. We just got to make sure we get the audit completed. And just from a process standpoint, we're now at the phase where the auditors are now making informational requests. So we just got to make sure we're turning those around as quickly as possible.
So we get that by July, you saying?
So if we, it's not like the end of the world.
And if we can get the money, if we can get the money, I mean, you can explain it to them, but we can get the money in August, but it would be for the next.
We have to wait
for the next
fiscal year.
Yeah. Okay.
And who knows what may or may not happen.
So is that the only withholdings that they are? Is this the water or is it?
No. So it's Act 51, the roll funds.
Okay.
And the revenue sharing for the general fund.
Okay.
And so, I always look at it from the standpoint, we start collecting property taxes in July and we stop at the end of February. And so just from a cash flow standpoint, it's usually the last 3 months or so when the cash flow kind of dips down.
Okay.
With us not getting those revenue sharing payments, I think we should be good. But ideally we wouldn't have to deal with that. There's a reason why they give you those monies as they do, because they know you need them.
Right.
And so the roll fund is a little bit different. It's really the general fund that is more of the concern. We went through it last year. There were several payments withheld, and we got those, but it's just another issue for us to make sure we're managing it out front of.
Okay. Cool. That's all.
So I know you mentioned, we're just behind. I know, that's just been our issue. Do you think we'll have the next audit done by December?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That contracts. I know it's been
we haven't been here. So when we finish this audit, hopefully by July 1st, we have to.
Back on the next.
Then we're starting the next. Okay. So typically the audits are done by Thanksgiving. They're reading the report in front of you before the Thanksgiving meeting.
Okay.
And we're done. Deadline is December 31st. So we've never had that problem before.
Yeah, and I know in I think it was 2020, we were late, but that was, I think,
COVID.
So that was the first time, because now it's common for accounting firms not to come out on site. Before they used to always come, we would give them the conference room over there by HR. Mm-hmm. So that was we got that done in February. So, that was an unusual situation. We were 6 weeks late. The state doesn't even, they didn't even raise a flag, especially that was in the midst of COVID and everything. But yeah, we certainly, generally you like to take a little bit of a breather. You asked me, he answered. So we're just going to be rolling right from, rolling from FY23 to FY24.
No golf.
That's bad for him. Sometimes now.
In the winter, these audits are not designed to be done in the summer.
Golf season. Yes.
Reason why they're done in the winter. But yeah, so we are prepared to start the process. We got to hit the ground running. So there's certain things, and even as we've been going through, we've been making little notes, and so there's a lot of external requests and everything that we got to get going on. So we'll definitely be out front of it this coming fiscal year. It's just hopefully just to be just a one-time situation where we're just doing an audit for a year or it's just but once we get back on track, then we'll be in a better position going forward.
That's thank you.
So we'll have, I know you said, and this might be a silly question, but we'll have the requested, the recommended, and then we have the actual.
No, you're just getting the recommended.
So we provide the mayor's recommended. So the sheet will have several columns. the mayor's recommended.
Okay.
The requested is what the departments asked for.
Okay.
We will have what we refer to as the projected. So that's the current fiscal year projected out for the end of the fiscal year. And those are kind of the three new columns. And then we also will show the current, the amended budget for this fiscal year and last year's results. Those are generally the 5 columns that's our
Thank you.
I think there's like a full warning. If you can provide it, like I know we're talking about saving. We really need to save in order to eliminate the deficit. Can we have something on there that kind of points out the way we decided to save? That makes sense. So let's say it's a 10% pay cut, right? For example, you can show where we're cutting and who's we're cutting.
Like your ticker, your little ticker. They used to do with the tick marks. Yeah, little tick mark. You have your tick mark.
Yeah. So it'll help me kind of
footnotes. It'll be footnotes on there.
Talk about it as I get different questions.
Sure.
But if it's a lot,
we won't be able to have that tomorrow Wednesday.
Right.
But we can definitely show where we vary from the amended budget.
Okay.
So as we've gone through it, there's certainly some items where we've been missing a target on the revenues.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some items where we've been missing the targets on the expense side. So, that is a little bit more of just a static thing. I think you're talking about, okay, when we start getting into the recommended and moving forward, where we can see some savings and the like. I think that certainly can be a discussion we can have, and we can certainly comb through and kind of provide some of those numbers. I mean, some of the stuff in talking with the mayor, we know we made certain adjustments in departments.
Able to speak to it better, as we're going through it, kind of okay, so now that we're here, I cut here, look here, because you know what I mean?
I'm going to give you all a cheat sheet. It's going to be a 1-pager where we just kind of looked at it. Okay, this is where we can cut, and we cut.
Exactly.
So you can see from last year's budget and this budget, you can see exactly how much we cut, where we cut it from.
Because that's what I was gonna.
Just so it makes it easy.
Didn't want to have to take it and side by side compare it, but
it'll make it easier for you.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, we'll have that for you.
Thank you.
Anybody got any questions? Well, wear your comfortable clothes on Wednesday.
I just want to tell you thank you, because I don't have to worry about my audit being but the budget being messed up.
You haven't seen it yet?
It better be in numerical order. I want to see you it's all over the place.
I did. I was supposed to play golf in the morning. It rained. And I stayed at home, worked on the budget. My boys is calling me. They're like, look, we're going out, the sun is out. And I was like, no, I can't do it.
Oh, you better keep your blackened curtains closed.
No, we're going to get there. Now, it's obviously we're in a very key, situation right now. But, we're going to get there. Some of it's going to come from the expense side, but I just believe a lot of it's got to come from the revenue side. Yeah, we can only cut so much. Yeah, So, but we know we're gonna. The good thing is the state doesn't expect us to work ourselves out of this. Oh, we didn't get in this thing overnight. We're not going to get out of it.
It's going to be a few years before we're back with a nice surplus. I'm probably looking at 3 years before we're back where we were.
That's not terrible.
But it starts with this budget here.
And remember, too, because we have a deficit, the state law is basically you want to present a balanced budget. Because we're in a deficit elimination, we don't necessarily, say our budget is off 150,000 to the negative. We can present that because we're in a deficit elimination. Because the budgets a lot of times are fictitious numbers. Oh, I think we're going to make $6 million on tickets this year. And last year we made 500,000, but it looks balanced on paper.
In July,
right. But it's not real. You know what I mean? We're trying to get realistic with the numbers so we won't be far off. We don't have to come back with 3 or 4 budget amendments when we ran overtime up $2 million and we don't have the money for,
And I think that was the one thing I did fail to mention is that we, as we go through and get the current fiscal year's information synced up and accurate, we will need to bring a budget amendment so we can get the amended budget in line with where we, we actually are.
Can you explain to them what the budget amendment is?
So we're required to have all expenses are have to be approved and appropriated by city council. So as the process that we're in right now, we have the mayor's recommended budget that he'll be presenting to the council. Council then, through the budget deliberations, will have the approved budget. And you guys will adopt, the adopted budgets. Anytime we need to make changes or you guys want to make a change to that, we make a budget amendment where we actually amend what the original budget or approved budget was, adopted budget, and we refer that as the amended budget. I think there were a few amendments that have been done this fiscal year, but we haven't really done what I consider to be the important ones where we know what's going on in terms of where we're missing revenues and where we're over on expenses. Those are the amendments that we're going to need to bring here to get we want to get everything synced up. So that's probably going to be sometime in June that we also get folks like.
Yeah. Typically, we used to do a few a year. So anytime we see numbers going up, overtime might be up in the police department, we'll make because we can project the numbers. I think the last 2 years they've been doing one big budget amendment at the end of the year. So look, this is what we budgeted, but this is what we actually spent. I need y'all to pass it. We already spent the money. I mean, so you really don't have a choice with the pass. I mean, gone. The money's gone. So we try to stay on top of. We may have 2 or 3 budget amendments. I think we've had 4, as many as 4.
I mean, we generally try and do some like in December after we know, after about 5-6 months, we kind of have an idea. But as kind of where we are now in June, we're just going to be saying, hey, we've spent this.
Right. I need you to prove it.
Yeah.
Go.
It's backwards. We're supposed to say, hey, this is looking like overtime is going to be more than what we budgeted. We're going to ask you guys to up that number. That's how it's supposed to work. How we expect it to work going forward. Now we're just going to come and say, let's spend
and pray.
And that's what, that was like my big question. Like, even when I have the budget questions, it's like moving forward, like next year's budget, we'll be able to make better projections. So where our original budget isn't, we don't have to keep amending. We shouldn't have to amend 6-7 times. Well, we can just use last year as the projected paper. Okay.
Yep, that's the goal.
One thing too, and correct me if I'm wrong, amendments can be money that we didn't foresee coming in. Mm-hmm. So if we get money that comes in and we didn't project it, that's a budget amendment too, right?
Sure.
And see, that's something we hadn't had in a while.
Yeah.
It's amendments. So we don't know what was coming in, what was going out, whatever. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're teeing up. We're applying for a lot of grants, right?
And just one last point. One of the key things for this coming budget, and we'll get into this on Wednesday, but we have been getting caught up. We were severely behind on our grant reimbursements. We've been getting caught up on those. Essentially, the reimbursements are for grants that the city has spent the money, but we haven't gotten the money back. And so the money's gone out the door, fiscal year 22, fiscal year 23. So we've gotten those budget requests. Crutchfield has been spearheading that. So we've gotten those reimbursement requests to the state. That's another thing that the audit technically holds up.
Yes.
The grants.
So we've got about a million, 1.4 million, I think 1.5.
Started, it was 1.5. We were down. I think she's caught us up just about completely.
Yeah. So
something that we can explore too, like someone who makes. I know Sade has a lot on her plate, and she's great at managing it. But she has a beautiful daughter at home and a family, and we're not trying to keep her and make her miss golf too. So is there any way we can potentially either maybe incorporate in the budget or just kind of figure out how we can get someone to better, not better, because that's not the right word, but take that load off of her and spearhead grants a little bit more, even if they help her write it or
we both said
not at this time.
Okay. Okay.
Well, Felicia's helping out by trying to identify things. She's wanting to go to training. We all got to help out. We got to have eyes on. We don't have any money to hire another human.
Okay. It's easy to help out, but even myself, I can have all the grant experience in the world, but it's kind of hard to plug into Sade at the busy schedule to be hey, where can I help? Because sometimes, I know myself, sometimes it's just easier to do it than it is to try to delegate it. And so I'm if there was somebody here to give that relief, then that'd be great as well. We do have the grant committee coming about, but
And we'll figure it out as we go.
Right.
No, we'll figure it out.
You know,
It's all hands on deck. Everybody good? Anything else? Or we go public participation. You coming now?
Yeah, what's the story? Was that publicly too?
It's gonna be tonight.
The class. Is it the same one that Grayson's heard here with the past 3 years?
I don't know if it's the same one. The same one from last year.
That's the one on file state. So that's the one.
They kept so I can't like yesterday the same they did. They made adjustments and they never cut any.
Yeah, one thing Dan and I was talking about, like, we know the plan was filed, and there was never a budget amendment to follow the plan. So the state requires you to file it, but you got to do something. You know, I mean, otherwise you're going to keep spending the same amount of money. And,
Right.
you know, it's really
That's what that's where they get the everything when you all
yeah. Now we'll update it again this year. This will be ours. This will be our first one.
Once the audit is filed.
adjustment I sent in things to the past administration for but and things of that nature, because that's one of our functions, is to suggest things.
Right.
But done good, we don't need to have a meeting.
We're gonna do it now. Any other questions? Public participation? Mayor and council communication? All right, we got a motion to adjourn?
It's summer.
Second. Probably move second. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Wasn't bad.
8:20.
You good?
8:20.
All right. You sure good.
Right.
All right.
See you again.
Good.
Go 10-3. All right.